We are in the final stage of My Hero Academia. Horikoshi has confirmed it. We are moving on to the final arc, the final overarching arc of the My Hero story. And this is really concluded by the war arc, which we are just seeing the end of now, with this weird mid-season recap episode, but still kind of new information. Probably one of the better recap episodes. My name is James Graham. I'm joined by Dylan Beal. We're the degenerate duo. Andrew's moving. He's getting situated, all that good stuff. But we are going to be hitting you with the hot takes of My Hero this week. Dylan, how you doing?
I'm doing good. So we didn't get a recap episode at the beginning of the season.
We were hyped. We were so pumped.
Yeah, we were pumped, and then they tricked us. They tricked us, and they're like, "Just kidding, you're getting one midway through." Which I'm gonna be honest. I think this is actually the way to do it. I don't know. I don't know why, but something about like the first core ending and like the second core starting with like a not only like a recap of the previous arc, but also like an epilogue to the arc.
Yeah.
It kind of works. Like I don't know. I did feel like, so I think this is what it is when a new season starts and I see that it's a clip episode, I get bummed out because I'm like, oh, I was so hyped for this. But this one, I still got to see some more new episode, like a little bit, and it didn't
Yeah.
feel as bad that it was a clip episode. So like, I don't know. Maybe this is the way to do it.
I think this really is, and we're also coming off of a 1 week break as well. So it's like it's not the worst. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
okay, here's a quick refresher because you guys have been away for 2 weeks. We are also at the end of like a big arc. We are also in like the halfway mark of the season. There's a lot of things that really like work with putting a recap episode right here.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, this is probably the best way to do it, and hopefully they continue to do it like this. I think this is the way you handle it.
Yeah, so all the My Hero executive TV producers out there who I know watch this episode,
Of course.
please take this into consideration for the future seasons.
Why wouldn't you take two white guys talking about this show? Like our opinions are the ones that matter the most, of
Yes,
course.
I'm not going to say I
Right?
correctly predicted the end of My Hero because they took my idea for the end of My Hero, but we'll see.
There'll be what is that original property or intellectual property
Yeah.
disputes? Those will come down the road for sure. So we are going to structure this episode a little differently because it is kind of like a recap epilogue episode. So basically, I'm going to kind of run through really the closing points of the end of the work sort of thing. Basically, just like it's almost like an afterwards sort of thing where I just kind of give a quick recap, and then we are going to talk about the new opener and ender, which is pretty sick. It was sick that we got a halfway point, one of those. And then we're going to kind of talk about the war arc as a whole. We're going to get into that and really discuss what the major takeaways are of it. So, really quick, the new information we got from this episode is that members of the Paraliberation Front and the League of Villains have both been captured. It's from Makia, Mr. Compress, the leader of the Love Company, Trumpet,
Yeah, Trumpet.
Trumpet, as well as I think Trumpet's a really big one from the Paraliberation Front.
I
Oh,
think it was basically
Gettin,
all of them except
yeah,
Skeptic.
yeah, because Gettin and Redestro were also captured.
Yeah, all of them except Skeptic were captured or the other ones were killed
Yeah,
before the
prior
arc.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. On top of that, we're really painted this very grim picture that most cities are absolutely demolished in this area. Like they're just devastated. And the heroes are like in full rescue mode. You get a nice really like run around of Ochako and Froppy really just trying to help everybody, and it's never ending to the point where you actually start seeing some of the lesser known heroes kind of waver and be like, listen, I can't do this anymore. This isn't for me. I need to get out of here, sort of thing. And I'm sure that's a theme we're going to go back to at some point, right? You don't just put that in there without, going back to that. So I think that's going to be a thing. On top of that, we do have several confirmed major deaths. Midnight and Majestic being the one, Midnight obviously being the most prominent one, which is something we talked about internally quite often. We didn't know how they were going to do it. And Majestic was like kind of like a bit of a prominent side character he's always kind of been around. Like his costume is very iconic. It's very like Deku Kid from Zelda sort of thing. But he's also confirmed dead as well. And then we also find out that Shigaraki was revived on his dreams of like shattering Hero Society and
Yeah,
Hatred Alone.
I love how like it was like an anti we're gonna not throw Exless under the bus, and instead it was like he was revived by hatred of the world. It was weird. It was a weird thing to throw in there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they just bailed Exless out because we shit on Exless. We were like, you had the kill shot,
Yeah.
you didn't take it, but they're like, nah, dude, not his fault. Shigaraki's just, he's built different. He's just so pissed off and so angry.
Man's so pissed off he can't die.
Yeah, like, which sick to his character. Actually cool because they're like, yeah, he's confirmed dead, like 100%, no heartbeat. Man's out cold. Psych though, because he's just so pissed off.
I do want to ask, since you're the medical expert here, is that possible? I'm not saying like, okay, listen.
Yeah.
I'm saying, is it possible? Is there a non-zero chance that someone could just revive because they're so upset and pissed off?
There has been tons of studies on people doing ridiculous feats through like sheer will and like emotional like duress alone. Reviving themselves is not one of them.
Are you positive?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go hunting after this, but like I'm like 99.5% sure that no one has been so angry at the world that they're like, I'm just not gonna die. Like,
all right, well, I'll do some research and we'll circle back next week.
We'll circle back. Yeah, exactly. We'll cover this topic a little more in depth. But yeah, like, and on the final closing note is that AFO basically almost, it seems to be fully in control of Shigaraki. Basically decides that nah, like tomorrow's just not gonna be another day. Like I'm keeping my foot on the gas, sort of thing. And we kind of end the episode with them looking at Tartarus, which of course is the supervillain prison, which is super crazy. It basically it looks heavily modeled after Alcatraz sort of thing. It's off on an island.
It is high tech Alcatraz for sure.
It's high tech, yeah, exactly, right, exactly. But it looks sick. So that is really what kind of sums up at the end of the war arc. I think it was delivered quite well. Especially the death of Midnight, which we really didn't know how the fuck that was going to go because everything got so out of order so fast, and we're like, okay, are they just going to keep her alive? Like, because they kept panning to her, and it was just like, what are you going to do with that? So, yeah. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about like the initial epilogue? I guess.
I will say, as someone who read it in the manga first, I was both like neutral, but also a little bit let down about Midnight's death. And the reason why is I actually didn't want them to keep cutting back to her. I think this is the problem of like, I think this was because I read the manga, like I had it hit differently for me. And I think that's why. I think if you're an anime only watcher, you probably got the scene just fine. But from my perspective, Midnight's death was so impactful because it came out of like nowhere. Because like in the manga, what's happening is you're getting this epilogue, everything's kind of wrapping up. Everyone's like kind of like at that moment where they kind of like everyone's like getting up off the ground and they're like, oh gosh, like I'm sure glad that we made it through that. And then they look over and then it's the scene with Midnight and you're like, oh, like I actually thought we made it out of this one. And so the reason why I didn't like it in this one is because they kept panning over more and more shots to her on the ground and you're like, I think contextually, if I was anime only, it would be like, wow, everyone's just on the ground, like not doing well. But because I had that pre-knowledge, I was like, oh, they're just panning over to this dead hero, and it's not hitting as much. The scene that actually did really well for me is I actually don't know if it was in this one or the previous one, but where they have the song that plays and has the English vocals. Is that this episode?
I'm pretty sure it was the previous episode actually.
Oh yeah, the previous one. So that one is actually the one that got me the most. Like I thought that was a really good like panning around to everyone kind of like on the ground, like losing hope, and then the song hits. I was like, that like was my emotional moment of the season rather than Midnight. So overall it brought me back to neutral because like I think that scene in general is very okay. I actually think that's one of the least impactful things about the war arc. But because of that song, there was still a really good like emotional part towards the end, and I thought that kind of tied it together for me at least.
Yeah, definitely. I think because it needed that, right? I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure for like anime only watchers, it was probably fine. But I think for anybody who knows kind of how the story goes, the delivery had to be like. I don't think it was fumbled. It was just weird. It was just kind of a different. It was not what I was expecting, right? I actually found Majestic's death a little more impactful.
Yeah.
Because there is no body. It's just his hat. And he has like this very heroic moment, very very briefly, and you know he's getting taken out, but like you just like you know what I mean? Like there was just so much. It was so grim because there was no body, right?
Yeah.
That I think that hit me a little harder. Plus, I'm a big like side boy character, so seeing these characters like really flare up, have their moment, and then they're like, "Yeah, you're gone," sort of thing, right? I
Yeah.
think that really added to it. But yeah, now you're seeing like the gravity of the situation. Like things are bad.
Yeah, I think this is like one of our first big major character deaths in the whole series. I mean, like I still think you can consider All Might's death to be one, because you know, like even though he's alive, he's not really the same All Might as he used to be.
Yeah.
But besides that, like who else really? Sir Night Eye, and like we talked about this before, of like he was a character just set up to die, and so like the fact that we had a character that made it 6 seasons is insane, actually.
And it paints it shows that the show can go a very different direction very fast.
Yeah.
That if you have a character that's built up that was so prominent, so around for so long, and they kill them off quite quickly, what does that mean for everybody else, right?
Yeah, and I think they actually set that tone really well with, and I don't want to poke too deep into this, but with the new opening and ending. Not only that, but like the scenes in this show itself, is we talked about it last episode of like, hey, these are some pretty brutal like scenes, like with the drill dude getting crushed or whatever. Like you could tell that like tonally things are getting a little bit grittier. Like not only like in like tone, but like visually things are getting darker. Like it's literally getting to be a darker show, like drawn in a darker light. So I think that's really cool. So I'm really liking this direction, and we're heading into what Horikoshi calls the final saga. So I'm stoked.
Yeah, it's gonna be, and especially like with the reveal of the new opener, you see an entirely different Deku, which you haven't seen on the screen yet. Delivered, right? He wasn't in the recap episode really at all. In this new kind of rugged, yeah. You want to talk about that real quick? Because like, I mean,
Yeah, I think the big thing here is like just take note, because I that's stuff that's happening next. So not to go too into it, but like we got a new prominent character, a woman with purple hair. We got Deku in his like newer outfit, running around what looks like to be a post-apocalyptic world, basically. But I mean that's the visuals we got. And I actually have a meta question. When did
Okay.
people start using the word core? Has that always been a thing? I feel like I just recently heard it last year, and now I hear it a bunch. And I'm afraid that like I just like didn't realize this was a word or something.
what do you, the word core?
Yeah, like the no, like so you referred to like parts of a season, right? Because like we
Yeah.
finished the first core. This is the second. This is the first episode of the second core of the season.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. That's a like,
I swear it's a new term.
Yeah.
Like it's spelled Cour. I first heard it. The first time I heard it was when someone was telling me that like Spy Family its second core is starting in the fall. That was the first time I've ever heard the word, and now I cannot go without hearing it anymore.
I don't
And
like that.
I feel like I'm insane because I've never heard this word before.
I honestly think this is gonna be one of those things that like it was probably the technical term as far as like how an anime is like released sort of thing, or
Yeah.
how it's like this is a production thing, and somebody in the fucking community got a hold of it and was like, oh, we're gonna call it this now. They're fucking seasons or their arcs, whatever, man. Like, chill out.
Anyways, I liked the war arc. I thought the war arc was great. It was something that we were really thinking about a lot because like this is the good arc. This is probably like the best arc that we've gotten. I think that's almost widely considered, like everyone agrees that this is like one of the best arcs. Besides maybe some of the first stuff we get, but like this is
Yeah.
the work is really good. And I thought that they did a fantastic job at adapting it. I don't think I have any real negatives about it. It was only goods. Like I said, I have a little bit of like a few issues here and there, but like in terms of an adaptation, I don't think they could have adapted it better.
No, I think like I got to agree. Like, I mean, we have had our gripes and stuff like that, but I think overall they've been like pretty minor.
Yeah.
And I like we came out of this season swinging, praising like episode after episode, right? And we haven't done that in a little while, right? Like a lot of these
Hmm.
seasons have had a decent amount of criticism behind them. So for it to be delivered so well, I think is huge, especially on such a well liked see like arc from the community, right?
Hmm.
From the fandom. So this is the one that they needed to execute well, and I think they did great. Dobby's dance was insane. Best Genius coming back was incredible. The hero reveal for Bakugo, or hero name reveal for Bakugo, was insane. Like
Mirio.
Mirio's return, yeah, exactly right. Like you really felt it like across the board. Twice dying, you know what I mean? Like there's so many huge moments or in this arc specifically that had to be done well, and they really all were. I think besides like, the kind, I don't even want to call it fumbling with Midnight. Like it was just kind of weird. Like it,
Yeah, and I mean even that is like it's mostly I think just a story thing too. Like I mean like
mm,
it is still pretty close to like how the manga was done and like I like something like that or like the scene with Mina. Though those are things I would just like chalk up to it's Horikoshi in the story. Like I would even
yeah,
fault it on the anime. So
yeah. No, that's yeah. I think that's just it. I think it's more of a like a story direction more than actually the anime misrepresenting representing it. So
yeah, I think My Villain Academia that arc is an arc that was really good but wasn't adapted super well. I think it was
mhm.
it was good. It was still good. It's still one of my favorites, but I think the quality of the manga of it and then the quality of the anime of it, that is a pretty big gap. And
Yeah.
I think the War Arc is what the good version of that looks like. Of like the quality is really high for the manga, quality is really high for the anime. Like I don't know, I'm just very happy with it. Yeah, I'm just very happy with it. Like I'm glad that like when it's all said and done, this was at least a season that we're gonna really really enjoy and like.
Yeah, 100%. And I think with it coming out so strong, I think the rest of the season is probably going to be as consistent as the first core or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah.
What is your favorite moment from the war arc? What is your
Oh.
what takes the cake? What takes the cake?
So I wrote this into our little notes here, and I didn't really consider it, because it's so hard because there's so
It
many
is.
really really good moments. It's tough. I think some of my favorite stuff is probably around. It's either the Dobby reveal, or Twice versus Hawks, or yeah, not Twice exactly like the end part, but the Twice versus Hawks of where they're like the stand down that they're kind of
Yeah.
having is just such a I don't know there's something about it because I love those characters together. Um, and I love Hawks. I love Twice, and so something about that right there, just like I love that. That whole moment was like perfect for me.
That's it, and that's just it. Like those two moments are so pivotal in this. And I mean, I think the only one that kind of starts to come close to it is Best Genius. I think that is the next one that kind of starts coming close to those two. But the Twice and Hawks as well as Dobby, all those things are a big like cultivation of like events that have happened prior. And yeah, like I think those are it, man. I think
Hmm.
those really have the because Dobby's dance was just so gripping. It was so like, oh
Yes,
man,
and it really felt like he lost it. Like it
yeah,
really feels like he lost it. And I think that's the important thing here is because he's like, oh god, it's so cringe. It's so cringe. But he's like our Joker, right? Like he's the closest like type. That's like the archetype that he really fills,
yeah,
and he fills it really well. I think. Just like you can see that like his mind has just been broken at this point of like where he's like hugging Shoto and he's like, what kind of expression do you think Dad will make when I burn you up? Like
yeah.
that's
He
incredible. It's so good.
Yeah, he's so derailed or like in like so consumed by this one thing of just making Endeavor's life as miserable as possible that it's like, and you said it, like he does feel that archetype, but he doesn't feel that archetype stereotypically. Like he doesn't have like those like the motivations that really make that archetype kind of feel weak.
Yeah, he's
He
he's
is
not
very
crazy for crazy's sake.
no, exactly. Like there's so like you can follow the steps to what got him to where he is, and I think that makes it so much better, right? And now you just see the like what that becomes, right? And you just get Dobby being completely let go.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious to see what like post Dobby's dance Dobby is like, because
Mhm.
before it did feel like, looking back at the other seasons, it was like this tension that was just always building and building and building, and it snapped finally into, the big reveal. So I wonder what that looks like now, because like he's not going to go back to acting like Dobby before, being like kind of like, in the corner
Diving.
just chilling, right? Like I can't imagine him not just being fully focused on Endeavor and all the Todorokis.
Yeah, so do you think that new Dobby fits in with new Shigaraki slash AFO's League of Villains? Do you think he
I
like
I kind of do. I don't think Spinner. I don't think
hmm,
Spinner, and I don't think we missing anybody else. Everyone's not in
Toga?
Toga. Yeah, Spinner and
Yeah.
Toga. I think those are the outliers now, because the way I see Shigaraki and the way I see Dobby is very similar. Of like, they are now like, I don't want to say they're not characters, because they still are characters, but they're not people anymore. Like, they're just these forces of destruction now, and that's
Yeah.
what they're going to be doing. They're just going to be destroying stuff. I don't really feel like Spinner's that, and I don't feel like Toga's that either. So like, I I think that the league is probably going to, have to like reconcile that before we move forward. But like, I don't think the group is inherently, what was the word that you used?
Oh, oh shit.
Like
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 splintered or
yeah, like I feel like they
yeah.
should be splintered, and they're going to have to deal with the repercussions of that at some point, probably.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be. It's crazy, man, to think of like going forward, like how what it's gonna look like. You know what I mean? Like we have already have a raid organized on Tartarus. Like what the fuck does that look like, right? Like
So wait, what was your favorite moment then from?
I'm basically gonna like parrot and echo you. Like it's those two. It's those two moments. All the twice the twice in Hawk standoff was insane. It was so emotional. It was so like you were so invested, right? And yeah, and then the buildup of Dobby just completely snapping
Mhm.
they're pretty hard to match. I Best Genius showing up was pretty sick.
What about underrated moment? Because I have an underrated moment
An
I was thinking
underrated
of.
moment.
I think the most underrated moment of this whole season, because I don't feel like people caught this at the moment, is when Best Genius is down and he's fighting, and he looks over, and like, Hawks has been gone. Hawks has been gone. The number two hero's gone. He looks at Endeavor, and Endeavor, the number one hero is just broken on the ground, and
Mhm.
he looks up and he realizes this, and like there's like a connection of like, oh shit, I'm the number one hero now and I have to do this, and he jumps into action immediately. That I think is just like, because there's so much going on at once, you breezed right past that. But when I saw it, I was like, this is sick. This is like, this is Best Genius, like being best est Genius right now. i love
Estes
i love
Jeans.
i love every scene with Best Genius, like throughout this whole series. So like, I don't know. I think that was super underrated, because it's real good stuff. Real good stuff.
Real good stuff.
Yeah.
I Yeah, I think, and I honestly I think the implications of Mirio being back into the fold is another thing that kind of got like a
Yes.
little brush under too, right? Like yeah, he's obviously in the fight, he's doing his thing, but like he is an insanely powerful hero, right?
There's a
And yeah,
reason why we had to take away his abilities.
he was busted, dude. He was OP, right? So, but like, I mean, AFO kind of does dispatch him, and he's like, I can't, like, and he even says, he's like, I don't like dealing with attacks that are unpredictable, right? And that's exactly what Mirio is. He's so hard to really like have a grip on, like how he's going to come at you, sort of thing, right? So I think him returning to the fold is another really big deal, because it also, like, well, I think we've talked about the Pandora's box of Ares so many times of what she can and can't do with that power. So that I think is very much undersold from in comparison to everything
Hmm.
else that went on, because there was so much in 13 episodes, right? It was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the last thing we've really talked about like going forward, like what it's gonna look like. So I won't really get too in depth on that. But I do want to know your thoughts on the new opener and closer.
I love them. There's
You know?
actually, they're some of my favorites. I don't know if like song wise it's like, wow, this is my favorite song, but like they're just really really good openers and enders. I feel like it hits the tone perfectly. I think my biggest gripe with the previous opener is it was really good for episode 1, but every single one after that I'm like, it doesn't fit the tone of the war arc as much.
Yeah.
This tonally is just great. It's awesome. I love it visually. It looks really good visually. Like
It
all,
does.
all the characters just like they just pop. They have this like pop to them, and I just really like it. There's a lot of stuff going on that like if you read the manga, you're gonna see some stuff in there, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's some hype moments there that maybe we'll go into like maybe towards the end of the season. Just not to spoil anything, but I love them. I actually really love them. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, I very much enjoy the animation style of the opener. I think that is something that I think it's really keeping with the trend of it seems like this season has all the budget, and I'm totally fine with that.
Yes.
So yeah, and I think thematically for the tone, it's quite suiting. I'm interested to see if that carries on through the entire remainder of this season. If it doesn't fall into the same trap that the first opener did, which is like, okay, this doesn't really line up anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we are in a very grim place, and it is a very, I'd say, grim opener as well. It's it's very melancholy. And then I've never been a big closer guy. I think it's fine. I think it's definitely not bad. But I won't. I'm
Yeah.
not super invested in it, right?
Yeah. Closers always they're always second tier.
They're second tier, exactly. So this is going to be the fun part. This is going to be the interesting. Who do you give the Plus Ultra Award for this entire arc? For those who don't know, the Plus Ultra Award is the award we give every episode for who went Plus Ultra in that specific episode. Now, where this is a recap of an entire arc, we're gonna go over the whole fucking thing. We might actually we might weight the numbers a little bit to be a bit more like this might count for a few more things because it is for an entire arc. But yeah, who are you giving it to, Dylan?
I want you to go first. I went first last time, so you got to go first this time. It's a tough one. It's the entire arc. I'm not going to say that my choice is incredibly easy, just to put a little more pressure on you, but my choice is easy.
Your choice is easy.
Yeah. So who you thinking?
See, mine isn't because I feel like there was just so many individual moments that characters had very big standout things that you're like, fuck, that's like that was really good. But I think the most impactful person this entire arc was Dabi.
Ooh.
I gotta say Dabi. Like I know like Shigaraki was an absolute force for sure, but like Dabi, he just had so much impact. It's so much impact, both within the battle, absolutely like screwing with Endeavor. He took out number one and number two. He took out number one and number two. One psychologically and firepower. Two just firepower. Like that says something, right? That says how crazy Dabi is. On top of all the other things we discussed about him, I think as a character, we've just seen such a cultivation of his character, and it's so fucking cool. So I got to give it to Dabi. Who do you got?
So I was thinking about a couple people, and you think Shigaraki, right? Mm-hmm. He was genetically engineered by the greatest villain of all time to do a bunch of damage and got a bunch of quirks. Cool. Yeah, right? Cool stuff. You have Dabi. Yeah, you had plenty of time to prepare this and to lay your plans out, and that's nice and all. But who was the one that no one expected? The one who charged in first. The one who stopped the doctor. The one who, even though she was missing limbs...
No, you're not, bro!
Through all of it. It's Mirko. She had the coolest, the hypest fight scenes. She is the definition of going plus ultra because these are like the top villains. This is the top villains, the top heroes. We agree they should be really strong and go. Obviously Deku's going to go beyond all the time because it's Deku, but we're not expecting like the number 5 hero who is like my superhero power. I'm a rabbit. I'm just a rabbit, and I'm just going to kick and punch and still stop multiple Nomus, even with broken limbs. Like this woman broke her own bones to escape. She's the best.
You're gonna catch so much flack for this one.
Good.
You're catching so much.
Good.
She disappeared after like 3 episodes. Like that was it.
She was in for like 5. First of all, second of all, I'm not gonna say that if it wasn't because of Horikoshi trying to bail out Exless, but if Exless wasn't there, I'm gonna say she would have killed him. She would have killed Shigaraki. If Exless wasn't there, I'm gonna say it. I said it.
You said it. Oh
I said it.
That is a hot take.
It is.
That is a very hot.
All the most hype fight scenes were her fight scenes. There's a reason why this season's so good is because it started off with a giant bunny bang.
I fucking hate you. I hate you so much.
We love
But
it.
that being said, though, I do remember the amount of clips of her like in action and like the 1-for-1s from the manga to the anime. Like she did have a massive impact early on, both like meta and like within the show itself,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I think there's an argument. I don't know if it's right. I don't know.
I'm gonna say is go back, watch the first 3 episodes, and tell me she does not go more plus ultra than anyone.
Then Dobby.
Yeah. Oh wow, he made a YouTube video. Cool. We make YouTube videos.
We
It's not,
make YouTube
it's not that
videos,
hard.
yeah. It's not that hard.
We already had a YouTube villain a couple seasons ago. Gentle.
Who's the YouTube? Oh, I love Gentle, man.
Yeah, the YouTube villain.
He is the YouTube villain. He's the nicest YouTube villain ever.
Yeah. Shouts to my man in. Oh, do we know
He's
what? Is he in Tartarus?
No. I think he's like contracted, isn't he?
I don't.
I
No.
want to see.
I thought he went to jail. We don't know
I don't
what.
know.
We don't know. That would be really sick though if like he got broken out of Tartarus and he was like, "Hey, listen, heroes. I promise I'm not trying to escape. I want to help this time."
Yeah. I swear I'm gonna be a good guy.
Final fight, right? Deku versus Shigaraki, because obviously that's the very final fight, and they're
course.
standing there, and Deku's like, I can't do this alone. I need help of people that I look up to, that I admire. One hand on the right shoulder, it's Koichi. He steps forward. He's like, I got you, brother. Another hand on the other shoulder, it's Gentle Criminal. All 3 of them defeat Shigaraki at the end.
Wow.
That'd be sick.
That is. Oh, God, dude. Holy shit. Okay. All right. I gotta wrap this episode up before it gets too deep down the rabbit hole. We're gonna say that. Yeah. All right. That's it for this episode. We will see you all next week for the next class. My name's James. This is Dylan, and we are the Degenerate Duo of Class 1A. See y'all next week.